All right, time to bring in our guy, Bo Wulf, who covers the Eagles for PHLY. Does a great job. They just wrapped up their show doing that as Jake is putting propaganda on our set.
Like perfectly placed.
What does that say?
I can't see. What's it say?
All right. Fields is a top 32 quarterback on planet Earth.
Sign management.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Top 32? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's not a problem. We can leave that on the
Carm
screen.
is a top 32 sports media guy. He's been trying to get into that top 20 list.
Braggs has been talking for 32 minutes. The shows he's been on for 32 minutes.
Well, welcome to the show. This is what we do here. We just yell at each other constantly.
Listen, I'm happy to be on another All-City show spreading the important message that sex is good.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Bo.
It is accurate. It's an accurate statement. All right, Bo, a couple of free agents here the Bears have signed coming over from Philadelphia, so we wanted to pick your brain. Let's start with DAndre Swift. For those of us that didn't watch every snap of DAndre Swift's season last year, his 1 year with the Eagles, what are the Bears getting here?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was sort of a different year than we expected for DAndre Swift when the Eagles, traded for him at the start of day 3 of the draft last year. They knew that this was a guy going into the last year of his rookie deal. It was kind of like, from my perspective, what they had done with Miles Sanders, where they were going to maybe run this guy sort of into the ground if they could. But there were two different things about Swift this year than I was expecting. One, he had real trouble staying healthy the first 3 years of his career in Detroit, and he was very reliable and healthy all season long. It was like a career high in carries for him. The flip side to that is we thought he was going to be a much bigger part of the offense as a pass catcher, which was like his big deal in Detroit, and he did not do that here. Now, part of that is probably the offense a little bit. Part of it is like a quarterback like Jalen Hurts doesn't necessarily check down to the running back a lot because he can just use his legs in those situations. But from my vantage point, I was surprised at how good he was between the tackles. I didn't expect that. There was a little bit of patience and a little bit of make you miss at the line of scrimmage that I didn't think he had in him. It was an odd arc of the year because week 1, he had 1 touch. He was like very clearly the backup to Kenneth Gainwell. And then Kenneth Gainwell got hurt in that game. And in the week 2, DAndre Swift has 28 carries for 175 yards. And he has 300 yards rushing over a 2-week span. And as I thought back on it, my memory was that he was way better in the first half of the season than he was in the second half of the season. But the numbers don't really back that up. He was about 4.5 yards a carry in both if you split it first half, second half. I'm not surprised the Eagles didn't bring him back. I don't think that was ever really their plan. I think it's kind of funny that 2 years in a row now, the very first move of free agency has been the Bears jumping to sign an ex-Eagles player. But I think I can sort of talk myself into there being more upside with Swift, but I would worry that he might be coming off what was the healthiest season of his career.
So everything you just said, what did you think about the contract, the money that the Bears paid for him?
Yeah, I would probably rather have him than Tony Pollard, who signed the same deal, right? Just because I think there's more upside. I would worry that Pollard, he's been used a little bit too much. I think it's a reasonable deal. The running back market, the middle of the market, is higher than I expected. I thought Swift was going to be more 6 or 7. But I can sort of talk myself into it. I mean, there is some explosiveness, and that's that's the thing to pay for. I would probably rather have him at 8 than Saquon Barkley at 13, I think. But I would personally, I would just not pay for a running back. But I guess if you're building around a number 1 pick at quarterback, you need somebody who can take some of the touches.
What's your guess on why the Eagles looked at that differently, Bo? Because they made the decision they made.
Yeah, I think they probably thought that they got the best season of his career so far, and they weren't going to pay for that to bet on repeating. And I think that they're a little bit enamored with the idea of Saquon Barkley taking him out of what was just one of the worst offensive situations anybody could possibly imagine for his entire career, and putting him in a place where defenses aren't going to be keyed in on him and have to deal with a quarterback who's a rushing threat. If you get Saquon Barkley in the open field, I think they think that he brings an elite ceiling to the offense, and that's their path to success. I think DAndre Swift is a good running back, but not a differentiating running back.
One stat real quick here. Yards after contact per attempt, 2023. We did some research last night. Nick and I were playing around with this. 2.42 was the number. Where does that rank? 84th among running backs. Now, you said a second ago that you liked him between the tackles, but this is not a guy that's going to be running people over. What would be your response to Bears fans thinking that, hey, this is a guy that does not like contact?
Yeah, I don't think that that's wrong. I would say that he was better than my expectations between the tackles, but my expectations were very low and probably aligned with what Bears fans are thinking. Another stat that sort of says the exact same thing, he was hit in the backfield, the lowest percentage of any running back in the league on his carries because of just like how good the Eagles running game is. I think it was like 22% or something like that. And so he's going to be going to a more difficult situation. But my like scouting report on him coming in was that this is a guy who was just going to want to bounce everything outside, and he was more willing to do stuff in the middle of the line of scrimmage than I was expecting. But yeah, he is not, he's not a people mover. He is not a short yardage back by any stretch.
I did have one quick question on DAndre Swift from a pass blocking perspective. What was your evaluation of in there? Because the Bears have had trouble finding running backs that, are good at pass blocking.
Not good. And there were times when they could not keep him on the field on third down, and he was not on the field in 2-minute drill situations. They gave those snaps to Kenny Gainwell. He was not reliable, and there were like a few like memorable plays over the course of the season where he missed a guy in pickup, and Jalen Hurts got hit because of it.
Yeah, that was a big problem for the Bears last year. I've heard Shane Waldron doesn't rely on his running backs to block as much. I guess 17% of their snaps had running backs back to block. But I want to switch over to the other side of the ball with Kevin Byard. The Eagles defense 2 years ago when you guys got to the Super Bowl was one of the best in football, and it seemed like last year it was kind of a mess with the movement on the defensive coordinator front. Kevin Byard obviously has had a good resume here in the league. How do you think that fit here in Chicago will be, and what you thought of him as an Eagle last year?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like of all the contracts that I saw over the past like 72 hours, this was the one that made me raise my eyebrows the most. Just having watched Kevin Byard this year, he looked like a player who was over the hill. Now, he was in a very difficult situation, getting traded to a new team in the middle of the season, and then that team changes scheme midway through. But like he did not look like a player who has a lot left to give to me. And given the state of the safety market in free agency, where there are like 15 guys who are starting caliber, the rush to sign Kevin Byard to a pretty expensive deal on Sunday before free agency even opened, that really I was like, what are they doing? And so obviously they think something that I don't know, but I was a little bit blown away by that contract.
Well, hopefully Kevin Byard plays a little bit better than he did last season for the Bears. Look, the Eagles right now, I'm looking at the quarterback position. Outside of Jalen Hurts, they don't have anybody in that backup role. Adam Schefter came out earlier today that teams that may be viewing Justin Fields would be in a backup role. Is that something that you could envision, ever thought about? If that were to be what the Bears would want to do, would that even fit in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean it's the kind of sexy headline grabbing move that Howie Roseman would make. Now they have this guy who was a 6th-round pick last year, Tanner McKee, who looked great in the summer, and I think they want him to be their backup quarterback, their number 2 quarterback. But one of the ramifications of the cap raising as much as it did is that the Eagles paying Jalen Hurts does not crunch them as much as they thought, and it means that maybe they can spend a little bit on a backup quarterback. And it's probably not dissimilar to how they viewed Gardner Minshew, trading for Gardner Minshew a couple seasons ago, where you can get maybe 1 year of this guy as a backup quarterback. I bet that if the price comes down enough, they might be interested in Justin Fields as a 1-year backup quarterback, and they can rebuild his value potentially and maybe get a comp pick for him or even trade him midway through the season. It is the kind of sexy player with a name that I think the Eagles would be interested in if the price came down enough.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be that's where this might be headed, where a team picking up Justin Fields wouldn't even be really worried about the 5th-year option, but all of a sudden you're talking about 1 year, $2.7 million, which is a bargain for even, in some cases, a third quarterback on your roster these days.
Right.
And no obligation beyond then. It's just what the draft pick compensation is at that point. And at this point, it just seems like it's a lot lower than we all thought here in Chicago. Were we just being biased towards Justin Fields here? I guess it's interesting hearing an outside perspective. Like, are you surprised that there's not a bigger market right now for Justin Fields from your perspective?
Totally. Like, Sam Darnold getting $10 million a year? Like, why? What is the upside you're talking yourself into there? Like, we have seen these guys play. I'm not the world's biggest Justin Fields fan, but for a team that is like, throwing darts, I would certainly think that there's more upside with Justin Fields than, Gardner Minshew or Sam Darnold. It's you guys know this, like, coaches don't love the unknown, right? If they can just get a guy who can do what they want him to do, like, a Sam Darnold or Gardner Minshew, that guy might not be very good, but it's not as much work for them. If you trade for Justin Fields, all of a sudden you got to like change everything you're doing. You gotta put in a little bit more time, and like, it's like any job. Sometimes people are just lazy. I think that might be a part of it. Now, maybe it's like if you trade for Justin Fields, you're changing the expectations of your winning window or something like that. But I am absolutely caught off guard by how tepid the market has been.
Well, let's make a deal right now. The Eagles have 3 fifth-round picks. 2 of them are compensatory, 171 and 172. Give me 171 and 172. You can have Justin. Deal? We good?
Yeah, I think that's a good deal. I think we're good to go there.
What do you think? Can I just get it done?
Come on, man. Throw in that third-round pick. What do you?
I don't think he'll do it.
The worst negotiator in the world.
It was a bad negotiation. Well, let me go back. I wanted
no. There's no takebacks.
No, there is. This is my game.
My game.
The third and the fifth, Bo.
No, I don't think they would. I don't think they would do a third.
See, that's why I said that.
Yeah.
But you start there, then
That's
you go
good.
to
yeah.
the.
No, you don't.
I just
you
get
gotta,
it done,
you gotta
man.
trust the negotiator. If they're bringing you a bad offer to begin with, then all of a sudden I don't want to make a deal. This is a guy who means business.
That's right. I came into play. We got it done. Fields to the Eagles for 2 fifth-round picks. Bears are going to draft some Hall of Fame wide receiver there. Win.
Bo, actually, really quickly, speaking of like the draft and draft picks, obviously with Jason Kelsey retiring, are the Eagles in like? Do you have a sense that the Eagles would like Jackson Powers Johnson because they need to back off? Because the Bears fans would love to have a guy like that. But is there a sense that he may be actual candidate for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I don't think they would go interior offensive line. I think their priority is going to be finding a long-term replacement for Lane Johnson at right tackle, who they think has maybe 2 years left at best, but he has also been injured consistently over the past couple seasons. They have drafted like future replacements for Jason Kelsey over the years. Cam Jurgens is the guy from a couple years ago who is going to be the starting center this year. They signed Matt Hennessy today to be a guy who can compete at right guard with their third-round pick last year, Tyler Steen. I think in the first or second round, the Eagles are absolutely going to draft a tackle, especially because the class seems to be so deep there. But I think they would probably wait until later in the draft to draft a developmental backup type in the interior.
Can we underline what's happened, though, in this interview with Bo? You just basically have told us that the Bears made a horrible signing at safety and a bad signing at running.
Me off.
Bad signing at running back.
Is fine.
Are you?
Yeah.
Now you sound like one of our listeners who thinks we hate Justin Fields. Like, are you listening?
I am listening.
He was fine with the Swift signing.
He called Byard old and bad, maybe not the exact words, and he called Swift like, yeah, I wouldn't have paid him. I did, yeah, he's okay.
The Byard one is bizarre to me. I do have to say, like, there are so many guys available who I would have rather had, especially at whatever they're going to cost.
And you wouldn't have done the Swift deal, right?
Probably not. I would have raced
He
to do
said
it. I would have
6 to
waited it
7.
out.
They signed him for 8.
He said we brought in a guy who's watched them both, and he was at best tepid on the Swift, and he hates Byard. So you could spin this in whatever world that you
I'll tell you
want to
what,
be.
though,
Their Fields
Kevin
cultist.
Byard, nice guy.
Nice guy. All right,
Good
another
interview.
nice guy.
We like nice guys.
We got another nice guy.
He came in week 7, had to learn a new system. Let's see how it plays out when he has an off season to get with the teammates and stuff. And
Yeah, Bo.
Listen, TJ Edwards is awesome. He's fun.
Did you know that we made a good signing when we picked TJ from you? Did you think that was good?
I think I did. I thought that was a pretty good signing. Yeah.
Okay, but you had your doubts on TJ. Say that. It'll make Bears fans feel better.
Well, I didn't expect the Eagles to pay that much just because of the position, but I thought that TJ Edwards was a good player, a starting caliber linebacker for sure.
Hey, what happened with Sean Desai? I mean, we're familiar with him here in Chicago. I think a lot of people think very highly of him as a coach. And then things kind of fell apart at the seams for you guys last year, and it even started to trickle out with players putting things out on social media or through the media of their voicing their displeasure. What went wrong there?
It's like the $1 million question that everybody's trying to figure out. He was put in like a terrible situation, it seems like, and like the way that they sort of fired him but made him stay on camera and promoted him to the booth and like just put him on TV the whole time was like, I thought really kind of nasty the way that they sort of did him. I think that there was just disagreement about the way that he was doing some things schematically on defense, but not to the point that they should have replaced him with Matt Patricia. I mean, Matt Patricia's history as a defensive coordinator is not very good. It was a kind of a bizarre move, and I think was like the beginning of the end for the Eagles season. So I think Sean Desai got a totally raw deal, and he had some like really good games over the first half of the season. Like they shut down the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football with a really interesting game plan. They shut the Chiefs out in the second half of the win over the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. I thought Desai got kind of a raw deal.
Matt Patricia has to be the only NFL coach ever to, on Wikipedia, have his title listed as de facto defensive coordinator. That's literally what it says on Wikipedia for his 2023 Eagles season.
Ouch.
My final question to you, Bo. You know, your rivals, Washington Commanders, in the quarterback market. I'll even add Caleb Williams to the discussion because I think there's a lot of Bears fans that think Washington might trade up, you know, being the hometown kid there. What quarterback scares you the most if Washington were to bring in a rookie quarterback to the division?
I mean, I guess Caleb Williams, but I will say that I haven't done as much work on the quarterbacks yet, just because the Eagles aren't in the market. But just from having watched those guys, yeah, Caleb Williams is the guy who scares me for a franchise that is as poorly run as the Commanders. Somebody with like a little bit of uniqueness would scare me more than like I don't know that I would trust the Commanders to like bring along Drake May in a successful way.
Oh, thanks for jumping on with us today. We really appreciate it. Good stuff, and I'm sure your guys' shows over the last few days with everything the Eagles are doing been pretty hot, so we'll be checking it out. PHLY. Go check them out.
Thanks for the deal, Bo.
We all silly like the mayor.